Hi there, viewers and gamers alike out there, and welcome back for another episode of A Winter's Daydream. So welcome to May the 1st. If you want to know, we are the month of May. We are going to continue our story in progress, and here we go. Okay, so yes, we are finally in the month of May, and we finally made it. There was I had to start off from that one particular checkpoint, so we seen the intro, so I had to go a little bit fast forward, and we finally made it. So I had to do some editing of my own. So thank you very much, yours truly. My grandmother sighs, and she wipes her forehead with the sleeve of her kimono. She sounds so exhausted. We might as well be a pair of polar explorers who have finally reached Antarctica. Fortunately, we didn't have as many casualties along the way as Captain Oates. Neither did we have to resort to eating our dogs. Not that we brought any dogs with us. My grandmother examines the old shrine. Don't ask about what that other sentence. Her expression downcast. Ouch. Not much to look at. I don't say anything. There isn't anything for me to say. And I half allowed myself to believe, as I trudge up those stone steps, that the same magic which holds my grandmother in its thrall would have worked its will upon this shrine too. The Jinguji shrine from my childhood was a rundown, dilapidated place in desperate need of renovation. A couple of fox statues flank the shrine, but they are crumbling around the edges. One of these foxes is missing a front paw and an ear, while the other's head has been sliced clean off. Part of me wonders if I'll find a decapitated fox head lying somewhere in the undergrowth, but I don't particularly feel like scrabbling around the frigid earth with my bare hands for it. The shrine itself is a humble wooden construction that's slowly rotting away. There are numerous holes in the roof, leaving it open to the elements, and seems to be sinking into the ground on the right-hand side. No festivals take place here. Not anymore. My grandfather told me this place only opens during New Year's, so the parishioners group can sell charms and amulets to those foolhardy enough to brave all 76 stone steps in the freezing weather. But I doubt there's enough local interest to even keep that going. This place is empty, barren, completely deserted. My grandmother and I are the only ones here. It's just us and the stars. The stars, the wind, and the snow. The wind seems to have picked up during our ascent. Or maybe it's chillier here because we're standing atop the hill's summit. I can look down across the whole village from this elevated position. It spreads before me in a murky, dim mass. I can see the roofs of houses, tall trees, and winding dirt streets that aren't real roads. This village is so out of the way that it doesn't even have any street lamps. It's hard to pick out the details of the village below, and soon my eyes begin to go blurry. I tear my gaze away, but what else there is for me to look at here? This little shrine is strangely depressing, particularly in the silence. The wind tugs at the hem of my coat and makes my hair flutter. I jam my fingers even deeper into the pockets of my pants. Not that it makes any real difference. The wind still finds them regardless. The stars have never looked more menacing. Even Betelgeuse, for all its brightness, seems to be mocking me. Mocking us. Yeah, it doesn't match your memories? My grandmother gestures at the holes of the wooden roof of the shrine. It's a positive health hazard. I try to keep my tone light and joking, but the wind seems to suck the air from my lungs. The cold weather knifes me, sliding beneath my coat and scarf so I shiver. It is a good exercise. What else did she come here for, other than a workout? Ditzy and always daydreaming? She was wrong. So you came here so often that the local priest always smiled and greeted you whenever you stopped by, huh? This tiny shrine used to have a priest? Wow. Sounds like a lot of people prayed for you back then. Even those from the Dark Alliance or souls who are summer ditzy and daydreaming that I would get married by one of them or all of them. But that's another topic. I think you are very capable myself. But sometimes we have to daydream just a little. If we don't, there'd be no magic in this world. I'm glad you didn't. I had a great time with you today. No, you didn't waste your time with me. Why would I think that? I really enjoyed it. My grandmother gestures towards the two stone deities, one with the missing paw and ear, the other with the missing head. If they were, I'm sure they think you look lovely. Come on, you don't say that. I think you've aged incredibly well, all things considered. Same thing goes after me from the Dark Alliance. Thank you very much. Is preferred mostly by women, but then there are some men who want me to be as their leader or king. I'd prefer if they didn't. She got you there. Really not that interested in long ladies right now, and I don't know if this is the kind of thing we should be discussing at a shrine. It might seem disrespectful. a small silence. The wind continues to moan mournfully. I swear it almost sounds like the howl of a lonesome fox. When did the priest stop working here? Really? And the shrine has been empty ever since? Wow, that's a downpour trodden way. My grandma exhales softly. It's cold enough that her breath remains visible in the air, hanging like a small cloud a few inches away from her lips. I wince. For some reason, her words wrench at something inside my chest. Don't say that, please. Some people may have their head in the clouds no matter how old they are. Don't be silly. You might not be able to use a computer, but that doesn't mean you deserve to... Grandma. Well, palette princess, if you want to know. I'm not a fan of palette princess either. Their music's pretty insipid. What? My grandma does a small twirl in her kimono. The sleeves flutter about her slender arms. The wind catches in her dark hair, making it flutter like a curtain. She smells ever so faintly of hinoki wood. I hated that smell. Hated the smell when I was very little. Now it's enough to make me feel emotional. Grandma, But it still lives on inside you, doesn't it? Our memories are like photographs, but we store them inside our hearts. Whenever we get sad or lonely, we can rifle through the photograph album inside ourselves and recall all the good times. Why do I get the feeling that something sad comes up like this? Even the sad times, the special times, they are brief snapshots in our personal histories that might not matter all that much to anybody else, but help make us who we are. But my grandmother shakes her head. You don't mean... Grandma! My voice catches in my throat. It hurts. This conversation hurts much, more than I ever anticipated. It's just painful to hear this, but it's so well done. I never thought Wow, she said she never thought she'd grow to care about this strange, eccentric grandmother she quite this much, she said. Though it sounds awful, I don't think the me of a few years ago would have particularly cared if my grandmother stumbled and broke a bone, or caught a malignant cough, or passed away quietly in the middle of the night. I would have been sad, I suppose, but it would have been abstract kind of sadness that comes when you feel obligated to be upset by something. I would have gone to her funeral, and I would have pretended to grieve, but her death wouldn't really have touched me. It wouldn't have hurt me. That's because I didn't know her well enough. To me, my grandparents, though integral members of my family, weren't particularly important. They were burdens more than anything else because I hated visiting them when I was very little. I thought their old wooden house was painfully boring. All I could do was lie on the tatami mats playing on my Game Boy and reading comics. And when my Game Boy ran out of batteries, or I finished my comics, I was lost in the doldrums of despair. I said the compound word, which I would be fine. I never got to know them as people. I never really tried. I thought my grandparents were too old and I was too much of a brat, and I didn't think we had anything in common. My grandmother didn't even know what Pokemon was. How could she ever understand my feelings? If she had died, I wouldn't have cared. When my grandfather did die last year, it hardly registered. But it's different now. Now that I've really spoken to my grandmother, not a curious relic from the past that might be found on a shelf at Tamayura, but as a real human being. I don't want her to die. Are you sure? You were looking so forward to it. But you bought that beautiful kimono. She offers me a smile, though it's slightly muted and doesn't quite reach her eyes. But Grandpa... And how do you know that? It's such an old woman saying, a phrase that doesn't make one lick of sense, that I can't stop myself from smiling despite the gloomy atmosphere. A drop of snow, soft and ephemeral, lands on the tip of my nose. I brush it away with the back of my hand. Don't you want to wait a little longer? If there's magic in this world that can make you young again, I'm sure there's magic that can bring Grandpa back. Why not? My grandmother hangs her head, her long eyelashes, black as coal, start to tremble. And that's when I see it. The tears. They beat in my grandmother's eyes like pearls, damp and salty. For a few moments, they hover on her eyelashes, held in place through sheer force of will, before a sob wrenches itself from my grandmother's throat and they begin to trickle down her cheeks. I stare, my eyes wide, mouth agape. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. How can I console her? I never seen my grandmother cry before. I never imagined of it. I can't even imagine it of her. As far as I can remember, she'd always been so bright and cheerful, forever telling silly jokes, smiling to herself and laughing. She seemed so perpetually trapped inside a dream. I assumed she didn't even realize how old she was getting, but maybe that was all a front, a mask. Of course, she never told me about her doubts or fears. Why would she? I was just a stupid young little man who wouldn't have listened to her. And even if I had, I wouldn't have understood her feelings. She had no reason to confide in me because she had grandfather to support her. She didn't need anybody else. But he's gone now. He's gone, and though my grandmother got herself dressed up and came to the small shrine where she first met him, he isn't coming back. No magic in the world can revive the dead. At least, that's what I thought, but... Yumeko. A soft voice calls out, carried by the breeze. The wind rustles through the dead branches of the trees and snakes down the back of my coat. My skin tingles. The snow continues to spiral lazily through the dark, dark sky. Betelgeuse has never looked more cold or more bright. Yumeko, please, don't cry. My grandmother gasps, blinking in surprise. The small motion dispels yet more tears, making them leak from the corners of her eyes. She lifts her head, letting her hands drop from her mouth. Guess who just showed up right there? It's Yukinari! Yumeko. Yumeko. It really is you. And then, as though he was standing there all along, there he is! That's Yukinari! A ghostly impression of my grandfather begins to materialize before the humble shrine. Wow! There is magic that comes into this. Or is it? But I think this is really good. He's faintly transparent, shifting and shimmering like a reflection on the surface of the water. And not quite there. Not quite alive. But it's still unquestionably him. He doesn't look like the grandfather I knew. Gone are the bristles about his chin, the stained and dirty hakama, and his slightly discolored teeth, yellowed from years of smoking cigarettes. He looks a lot younger. He's tall and slender, stately like a piece of bamboo, with dark hair and dark eyes. If I had to hazard a guess, I'd say this man is in his early 20s. Wasn't that the age he met my grandmother? She was 16. He was 24. And they fell in love at first sight. My grandmother blinks, her eyes red and puffy from tears. Her hands are clasped together at her chest, over her heart, as though checking to see whether it's still beating. I don't blame her. My grandfather is dead after all, but he's supposed to be dead anyway, but he's still standing here. It's the only natural conclusion, really. If you can see dead people, you must be dead yourself. But you're actually alive. Someone has a sixth sense. There's no way this can be real, and yet I can feel my blood coursing through my body. I'm more acutely aware of it than ever before. Now that something so fantastical has occurred to me, doubt my own existence. I'm alive, but the ghostly impression of my grandfather still hasn't faded. That must mean it really is real. And didn't I tell you friendship is magic is real? Because it is. If that can happen, so can this. This is really happening. My grandfather smiles, that teasing smile of his I know so well, though he's decades younger than the old man I used to know. Who else would it be, Yumeko? His voice is firmer now, though his body is still trembling, like the sail of a ship in the middle of a storm. Don't tell me you can't remember your own husband. And with that, she runs forward. Her dark hair flutters behind like a veil. The sleeves of her kimono whip behind her as she runs. But she doesn't stop. She opens her arms wide and throws herself at my grandfather in a passionate, almost desperate embrace. I half expect her to fall straight through him. His existence is so very tenuous, hovering on the brink between one world and the next, that it seems inconceivable he should be able to catch her flesh and blood body with those phantom arms. But I needn't have worried at all. Her head falls against his chest. It doesn't go through it like something from a magician's stage act. Instead, my grandfather's body remains solid and immovable, still faintly transparent, but rooted firmly in this world. For now, at least. Is that thanks to the deities enshrined here? I wonder. It might be my imagination, but those stone foxes that guarded the shrine, the one without a paw and ear, and its companion with the missing head, look a touch more stately than they did before. It almost like they know something. But that's ridiculous, isn't it? They're only stone. What does stone know? My grandfather takes a step back, his shoes sinking into the snow as he tries to support my grandmother's weight. A sly smile on his face, he says, his eyes flashing. Goodness, Yumeko. Have you put on weight since I last saw you? You're heavy. You have to remember I've had a bad back. Yes, my mistake. But I've never been very good at saying the things I'm supposed to say. I prefer to say the things I like to say. It must be my ready wit and good looks. Come on. Come on, there's no point trying to play hard to get. We've been married for more than 50 years. Did you think you could get rid of me that easily? My grandfather smiles fondly and winds his arms around my grandmother. His existence seems a touch less tremulous now, perhaps because his close proximity to my grandmother, and I can no longer see through him. No matter what happens to my body, we'll always be together in spirit. Of course. That's how I was able to come back. It was no easy feat, but I had a bit of a helping hand. That's a secret. I'd get in trouble if I told you. Oh, you Mecco. I guess that's what it means. I guess that's how we feel like big and important to keep like this. My grandfather laughs and shakes his head. You know me too well, Yumeko. You know me too well. And you always did like reading. Very much. My grandfather sighs. His breath ruffles the top of my grandmother's head, making a few dark strands of her hair dance. I missed you, Yumeko. What do you mean? I thought it should go without saying. You look beautiful. You're even lovelier than I remember. And though you call me a fool, I do remember what you looked like during our first meeting quite well. I have an impeccable memory. How could I forget? You were wearing a charming kimono patterned with flowers, much like the one you're wearing now, but a little less flashy, and a shawl, I think. I'm very glad you did decide to wear it. I bet I looked rather dashing when I caught it for you, didn't I? How harsh! From what I remember, you were quite taken with me. Didn't you say I look like a prince? A wonderful prince? That's what I liked about you the most. My grandmother rests her cheek against my grandfather's chest. He holds her close, wrapping his arms about her body protectively, shielding her from the bitter wind. Yumeko, I don't have long left. I came back because I wanted to tell you how much I love you, even now, but it seems you already know that. Thank you. I knew I'd choose well when I decided to marry you. No other lady would compare. Even so, no matter how heavy you might be, Yumeko, I'll always love you. Oh goodness, did I? Forgive me, I couldn't help myself. I was so pulled over by your beauty, I wanted to impress you. But in the end, I'm afraid my rambling bored you half to death. I could say the same thing about you. I always care for you, and I'll wait as long as it takes until we are reunited once more. Wow. This is such a romantic moment, doesn't it? Oh my. Just don't hurry yourself to an early grave for my sake. I want you to live a long and happy life. Oh, really? My grandfather chuckles under his breath. And you say I'm a charmer. I think you're better with words than I am. Then you should know what happens when you reach the last page of a fairy tale. Don't be so maudlin. Think of something happier. What about Cinderella? My grandmother smiles. She looks up at my grandfather, a good head taller than she is, with wistful eyes. Oh, wow! That is the one way to see. I would love that from A Winter's Daydream. Hesitantly, her cheeks flushing pale pink, she entwines her fingers with my grandfather's and presses a soft, gentle kiss against his mouth. I think I'm gonna cry on this. No, seriously, I am. Oh my... I'm sorry. I can't help myself like this. It's just so romantic. Oh my. Novel games like this makes me want to cry. It's almost midnight when my grandmother and I finally return back to her home. At least that's what the circular clock hanging in my grandmother's living room tells me. 30 minutes to 12 exactly. Well, probably not exactly, because the clock in my grandparents' house has always been either 5 minutes too fast or 5 minutes too slow. But it's a more or less reliable metric in our daily lives. The precise time isn't too important. It's not like we're baking a cake or mixing dangerous chemicals in a lab experiment. I don't study chemistry like Rio. I'm a law student through and through. My grandmother sighs as she sits down at the kotatsu, her wooden sandals removed in the entrance hall. We did spend a lot of time shopping earlier, and then there were all those stairs. She isn't exaggerating either. When my grandmother and I were descending the 76 stone steps after our incredible otherworldly encounter, she lost her footing and slipped. She very nearly went hurtling down the remainder of those stone steps to meet her maker, but I was able to reach out and grab her in time. Don't mention it. I tried to sound casual and offhand, but in truth my grandmother's tumble scared me half to death. My heart started to thump so hard, I thought it was going to burst out my chest like that famous scene from Alien. I stole that DVD from my dad's collection when I was little and forced Otoko to watch it with me in the living room late one night. She was 8. I was 10. It scared both of us, and I think Otoko's held a grudge against me ever since for subjecting her to something so terrifying. Now that I think about it, Otoko has a lot of reasons to dislike me. Trapping her inside the futon cupboard was only the tip of the iceberg. My younger sister might hate me, but I think I've begun to repair my relationship with my grandmother. I like to believe I understand her a bit more than I did before. Savior? I hardly think so. I mean, who let their own grandma plummet to her doom? You didn't like her? I can see that. What was your grandma like? So you spoke without thinking and it didn't respect your elders enough, huh? Wow, what's wrong with your handwriting? While I find my grandmother's handwriting a little wispy, the characters so thin they almost seem to be running off the paper. It's not unreadable. Otoko's writing is more indecipherable. Her characters are very round and curvy, and she likes to decorate her writing with little stars and hearts. I see. My grandmother frowns, her fingers resting on top of the kotatsu. So, something like that kind of passed from one generation to the next as a disease of some sort. However, that can be broken and never to be repeated ever again. I don't think many people like their grandparents, or I pause suddenly feeling guilty. Maybe they think they are so different from them they can't understand them. Wow, she's smart on about pocket monsters and dragon orbs. It was Dragon Ball, actually. Yeah, Dragon Ball. What do you do? A Dragon Ball reference. Or, yeah, but then the Dragon Ball universe. The show was incredibly popular. I think you've been lovely to me this whole time. My grandmother looks at me shrewdly. Well, maybe that was true at first, but I got older. Things change. No, I should be the one thanking you. Thanks for always being so patient with me, even though I was an annoying little youngling. I guess. Maybe she's right. Maybe everyone does change. In that case, perhaps my relationship with my sister can change too. I hope it does. We might be dissimilar in most aspects, from our looks to our interests to our general attitudes, but we are related, and only a couple of years apart. I let a rift grow between us out of complacency. I thought things would never change no matter what I did. I was wrong. Things always change, like tectonic plates shifting beneath the Earth's crust. the things you may never know when comes to mind from back into those past times. How old were you when she died? It happens to the best of us. People can be pretty tenacious when their lives are on the line, I guess. But you were able to meet him again. I swallow. What should I say? I don't want to say I hope you'll meet him again soon, because there's no way such a reunion could occur under favorable circumstances, but the thought of my grandmother living the rest of her life in this deserted village with a dwindling population is depressing. You will? Like what? Yes, and you could brew me some more tea while we talk? Me too. I return her smile with one of my own. For once, I'm trying not to be polite. I really do mean what I'm saying. From the bottom of my heart. I guess you have to do things that comes from the heart and not just being polite. It would be wonderful. I feel so content sitting here in this cozy living room with my grandmother. I wouldn't mind if this moment lasted forever. But time stops for no man or woman. It keeps ticking. It's 15 minutes to midnight now, according to the clock on the wall. But perhaps it's actually 20 minutes to midnight or 10 or whichever works. I'm not sure. My grandmother stifles a yawn with the palm of her hand. You wouldn't want to go without your beauty sleep. You met your husband again, and you had a near-death experience. Not many women your age can say that. But it really happened. It really did. I don't think this was all a dream, to be honest. It was more than a dream. To that, it was real for you. If it was, it must have been the most perfect dream anybody has ever had. But that was real for you and Yumeko. Oh, wow. That... Oh my gosh. And it seems we are going to stop here for the time being. And don't you worry, we are going to continue to pick up from where we left off. And thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. And tell me, what do you guys think of A Winter's Daydream? Do you like it or hate it? Thumbs up this video if you guys love this novel game so much, because that is such a powerful romantic metaphor, but it's more than a metaphor. It was like, oh my gosh, this part of this story can absolutely make someone cry, to be honest, and I am not kidding. So tell me, what is your favorite scene on A Winter's Daydream? And just leave a comment section below. So once again, This is Leo Wolverine saying and speaking as always as your friendly neighborhood spider cop and your Master Chief, who takes chances, making mistakes, and getting messy, like peanut butter and chocolate or breakfast for dinner. Because when the going gets tough, the job gets it done for a breath of fresh air in Leo's Let's Plays Alliance. Godspeed, play safe, and shalom. And see you guys next time for another episode of A Winter's Daydream. So romantic, this video shows the opera, and it's just, I love it. I hope you guys love it too as much as I do. It just, something like that can etch in our hearts forever. So until then, I'll see you guys later.